I sat in my doctor's office 3 years ago, staring at test results I didn't want to believe. At 42, I'd convinced myself that what I was experiencing was just stress, maybe burnout from work. But the numbers told a different story. My testosterone levels had dropped significantly, and more importantly, something fundamental had shifted in how I experienced desire itself. That appointment became the starting point of a journey that would teach me more about male biology, psychology, and the aging process than I ever expected to learn. Let me take you back to the beginning, to help you understand not just what happened to me, but what's happening to millions of men around the world, and why almost no one talks about it honestly. When I was in my 20s, desire was this constant, almost overwhelming force. It didn't need context or build-up. It was just there, like hunger or thirst, demanding attention at the most inconvenient times. I remember my wife laughing about it during our early years together, how predictable and straightforward everything seemed. But somewhere between my mid-30s and early 40s, something changed. At first, I didn't notice it. The shifts were subtle, like watching the sun set. You don't see it moving, but suddenly the sky is a different color. I started needing more sleep. Coffee became less of a choice and more of a requirement. At the gym, I noticed I couldn't recover as quickly from workouts. But these were all things I could rationalize. Everyone gets older, right? Everyone slows down. What I couldn't rationalize, what eventually forced me to confront reality, was the change in my intimate life. The spontaneity was gone. What used to be automatic now required intention. What used to be overwhelming now felt optional. The shame that comes with this realization is something most men never talk about. We're conditioned to believe that male desire is supposed to be this unchanging constant, this defining feature of masculinity itself. So when it starts to fade, we feel broken. We feel like we're failing at something fundamental. I spent months making excuses to my wife, avoiding intimacy, pretending to be too tired or too busy. The truth was, I was terrified of confronting what was really happening. That doctor's appointment changed everything. My physician, a man in his 60s who'd clearly had this conversation before, didn't sugarcoat it. He pulled out a chart showing testosterone levels across different age ranges. The decline starts around age 30, he explained, and it's not linear. It's progressive. Most men lose about 1% of their testosterone each year after 30. By the time you reach 40, you're operating at significantly lower levels than you were a decade earlier. But here's what he said next that really changed my perspective. Testosterone is only part of the story. In fact, it might not even be the most important part. He asked me about my sleep. I admitted I was getting maybe 5 or 6 hours a night, usually interrupted. He asked about my stress levels. I laughed. I was running a business, raising 2 kids, trying to maintain a house and a marriage. Stress was my baseline. He asked about my diet. I told him I ate whatever was convenient, which usually meant processed foods, takeout, too much coffee, too much alcohol to wind down at night. Then he asked about my relationship with my wife. Not just the physical aspect, but the emotional connection. When was the last time we'd had a real conversation? When was the last time we'd done something new together, something that excited both of us? When was the last time I'd felt genuinely present with her, not just going through the motions? I couldn't answer most of these questions. And that's when he explained what he called the desire ecosystem. Testosterone matters, absolutely. But testosterone exists within a complex system involving sleep, stress hormones, diet, physical activity, emotional connection, and mental stimulation. When you disrupt one element of this ecosystem, everything else suffers. And for most men over 35, we're disrupting not just one element, but all of them simultaneously. Let me break down what I learned, not from a textbook, but from 3 years of research, experimentation, and honest self-examination. The biological component is real and measurable. After 30, your body produces less testosterone. Your hormone receptors become less sensitive. Your body composition changes. You lose muscle mass and gain fat, especially around the midsection, and that fat tissue actually produces an enzyme called aromatase that converts testosterone into estrogen. It's a vicious cycle. The less testosterone you have, the more fat you accumulate. The more fat you accumulate, the more your remaining testosterone gets converted to estrogen. But here's what the research shows that most men don't know. Lifestyle factors can either accelerate or slow this decline dramatically. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology found that men who maintained healthy sleep patterns, regular exercise, and managed stress effectively showed testosterone levels 20 to 30% higher than their sedentary, sleep-deprived peers, even at the same age. Sleep became my first intervention. I started treating it like a non-negotiable appointment. 7 to 8 hours, consistent schedule, dark room, cool temperature. Within 2 weeks, I noticed changes in my energy levels. Within a month, I noticed changes in my desire. The research backs this up completely. During deep sleep, particularly REM sleep, your body produces the majority of its testosterone. When you chronically shortchange your sleep, you're literally preventing your body from producing the hormones you need. The stress factor was harder to address because I couldn't just eliminate my responsibilities. But what I could change was how I responded to them. High cortisol, the stress hormone, directly suppresses testosterone production. When your body is in constant fight or flight mode, it prioritizes survival over reproduction. It makes perfect biological sense. Why would your body invest energy in sexual function when it thinks you're being chased by a predator? I started implementing what researchers call stress recovery protocols. 20 minutes of meditation each morning. A proper lunch break instead of eating at my desk. Saying no to commitments that drained me without providing value. These weren't revolutionary changes, but their impact was profound. The constant background anxiety I'd been living with started to fade, and with it, my body stopped operating in permanent crisis mode. The diet transformation was eye-opening. I'd always thought nutrition was about weight management, but it turns out food directly impacts hormone production. Healthy fats, from sources like avocados, nuts, olive oil, and fatty fish, are essential building blocks for testosterone. Zinc and vitamin D are critical cofactors. Excessive sugar and processed foods spike insulin, which suppresses testosterone production. I worked with a nutritionist who specialized in male hormonal health. We rebuilt my diet around whole foods, adequate protein, healthy fats, and nutrient-dense vegetables. I cut way back on alcohol. Research shows that even moderate drinking can significantly impact testosterone levels. But here's where things got interesting. About 6 months into my lifestyle changes, I was seeing improvements, but I felt like I'd hit a plateau. My doctor mentioned that while diet helps, it's incredibly difficult to get optimal levels of certain key nutrients from food alone, especially the specific combinations that support male hormonal health. That's when he introduced me to something that honestly surprised me with how much difference it made. I'd always been skeptical of supplements. The market is flooded with products making outrageous claims. But what he showed me was different. It was formulated based on actual research about the specific nutrients men over 35 need to support their natural hormone production. Things like specific forms of zinc, magnesium, vitamin D3, and botanicals that have been used for centuries in traditional medicine and now have clinical backing. I decided to try it, mainly because I trusted my doctor and I was willing to try anything that might help. Within 3 weeks, I noticed a shift. My energy levels improved noticeably. My recovery from workouts got better. And yes, I started experiencing the kind of spontaneous desire I thought was gone forever. It wasn't like being 25 again. It was better, because it came with the emotional maturity and connection I'd developed. My body composition started changing more rapidly too. I lost the stubborn belly fat. My muscle tone improved. People started commenting that I looked younger, more vital. But the most significant change was internal. I felt like myself again, maybe even a better version of myself. Now, I want to be clear. This wasn't a magic pill that fixed everything overnight. It worked because I'd already laid the foundation with sleep, stress management, exercise, and diet. Think of it like building a house. You need a solid foundation first, and then the right materials can help you build something great. But without that foundation, nothing works. The most profound change came from something I didn't expect, rediscovering novelty and emotional connection with my wife. There's fascinating research on this that explains a lot. Scientists have studied the Coolidge effect, the tendency for males of many species to show renewed sexual interest when presented with a new partner. It's a biological drive for genetic diversity. But here's the critical insight. Novelty doesn't have to mean new partners. It can mean new experiences, new contexts, new ways of connecting with your existing partner. My wife and I started dating again. Not the comfortable dinner and a movie routine we'd fallen into, but genuinely new experiences. We took a cooking class together. We went hiking in places we'd never been. We had conversations about topics we'd never discussed. We traveled without the kids. We created space for spontaneity and surprise. And something remarkable happened. The desire that I thought was gone forever had returned, but in a different form. It wasn't the automatic, purely physical drive of my 20s. It was deeper, more connected, more meaningful. It required context and intention, yes, but the satisfaction was more profound than anything I'd experienced in my youth. My wife noticed the changes too. She told me later that she'd been worried about our relationship, wondering if we'd lost something fundamental. But as my energy and vitality returned, as I became more present and engaged, our entire dynamic shifted. The intimacy we'd been missing came back naturally, without force or pressure. This is what I think most men need to understand. Desire doesn't disappear with age. It evolves. The raw hormonal drive of youth gives way to something that requires more cultivation but offers more depth. The problem isn't that male desire declines. It's that we expect it to function the same way it did at 25, and when it doesn't, we think something's wrong. The psychological component is massive. Anxiety about performance becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you approach intimacy worried about whether you'll measure up to your younger self, you trigger stress responses that actively work against you. Learning to let go of that comparison, to embrace desire as it exists now rather than mourning what it was, freed me from a cycle of anxiety and disappointment. I also learned about the role of purpose and vitality in desire. Men who feel purposeful, who are engaged in meaningful work or projects, who feel they're growing and contributing. These men maintain higher levels of desire regardless of age. Desire isn't just about hormones. It's about feeling vital and alive. When you're excited about life, when you're pursuing goals and challenges, that vitality extends to all areas of life, including sexuality. The physical fitness component can't be overstated. Resistance training, specifically, has been shown in multiple studies to boost testosterone levels naturally. But beyond the hormonal impact, being strong and fit makes you feel more confident, more capable, more attractive. That psychological shift matters enormously. I started lifting weights consistently, focusing on compound movements that engage multiple muscle groups. The physical changes were noticeable, but the mental shift was even more significant. After 3 years of this journey, I'm in better shape physically and mentally than I was in my 30s. My testosterone levels have improved significantly. My last test showed me in the optimal range for my age, which my doctor said was exceptional given where I started. But more importantly, my entire approach to health and vitality has transformed. I understand now that desire doesn't operate in isolation. It's a reflection of your overall life energy, your health, your relationships, your sense of purpose. The real reason male desire declines with age isn't just biological inevitability. It's the accumulation of poor sleep, chronic stress, inadequate nutrition, sedentary lifestyle, emotional disconnection, and the loss of novelty and purpose. Each of these factors is addressable. Each of these factors is within your control. Yes, your body changes. Yes, hormones decline. But within that reality, there's enormous room for agency and improvement. The men who thrive in their 40s, 50s, and beyond aren't the ones with the genetics of teenagers. They're the ones who understand that vitality requires cultivation, that desire requires context, and that aging doesn't have to mean decline. It can mean evolution. If you're experiencing changes in your desire and it's concerning you, start with the basics. Get your sleep dialed in. Manage your stress. Clean up your diet. Move your body. Reconnect with your partner emotionally. Create novelty and excitement in your life. These aren't sexy solutions, but they work because they address the root causes rather than just treating symptoms. And once you have that foundation in place, consider whether you're getting the specific nutritional support your body needs. Look, I get a lot of questions about what specifically I use to turn things around. I've put everything in the first pinned comment below this video. The exact product, why it worked for me, the research behind it, and where you can find it. Click that first comment, read through it, see if it resonates with your situation. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm just sharing what genuinely changed my life and might help you too. If you need medical intervention beyond lifestyle and nutrition, don't be ashamed to seek it. Testosterone replacement therapy can be life-changing for men with clinically low levels. But it works best when combined with these lifestyle factors, not as a replacement for them. This journey taught me that the most masculine thing you can do isn't to pretend nothing's changing or to suffer in silence. It's to take ownership of your health, to educate yourself, to make intentional choices about how you want to age, and to communicate honestly with your partner about what you're experiencing. If this resonated with you, if you're going through something similar or you know someone who is, I hope this helps you understand that you're not alone and you're not broken. What you're experiencing is normal, and more importantly, it's addressable. I'll be sharing more about this journey in future videos, diving deeper into specific interventions, discussing the science behind different approaches, and interviewing experts who specialize in male health and vitality. If this is a topic that matters to you, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss those conversations. Let's build a community where men can talk honestly about these issues without shame or stigma, where we can share what works and support each other through these transitions. Seriously, check out that first pinned comment. I've laid out everything there. No fluff, no hype, just honest information about what worked for me. Click it, read it, and decide for yourself if it's something worth exploring. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll go even deeper into the science of male vitality and performance.